Hello,
Good
hello.
morning, good afternoon, good day. Welcome, everyone. It is Banner and Backbone presenting Palantalk with Nick Paro and Shane Yirak. What's up, man? How are you doing today?
It's Monday in the fascist states of America, and we got shit to talk. So it's always good to start off the week with you, Nick, and I always look forward to Palantalk. Definitely one of the highlights, especially because I think it's the longest going show that I've had. I think this has been I yeah, this is a long. It was going
We're
back
10
one. It was
episodes in, man.
Yeah, this was like the catalyst for me in terms of doing live streams, and all of that has been through Palantalk. And it's so good to see. I don't know about you, but it's so good to see South Park ripping on Peter Thiel and
Mm-hmm.
see his name just around in a way that, like, that's why we started this show, right? Is so people would talk about this asshole and these people, and it's happening. Like, I'd like to think that some small part of that is us somewhere
I think
along the
in no small part, it's us. I think in a large part, we are helping things. I think we need to stop discrediting ourselves for the work that we're doing and downplaying the efforts we're making, because I think we're actually having a real impact,
yeah.
either through Palantalks or just our new level of like responsibility and influence that we're gaining with our subscribers and our friends and everyone who's with us. So welcome everyone as you keep coming on in. It's great to have you. Please hit that heart as you come on in. It helps us in the algorithm. um, and everything. Ooh, I forgot to invite. That was what it was. I was going to invite Melissa today, but we were going to talk about some stuff. She just messaged me. So, um,
Hey, that's what's going on, Rick.
and I'm messaging Melissa right now saying, I'm sorry. I totally forgot to get you in on this one. That's on me.
I was like, dude, it's like I was like, I maybe I misremembered. Um, that's good. That's good. We
I
have
thought she was going to be in court today, covering the Letitia James stuff. So
oh yeah,
um, it was kind of on me not bringing her in. Um,
it's all right. We both forgot.
yeah,
I will
and
I
so
will
it's
also take credit because I am
so
half of the show.
it happens. We're both busy as shit. Rick, it's good to have you in here. Glad you're hanging out with us today. And so today's episode 10, like Shane is saying, this one's been a long running series for us. I think this is probably my longest, like, continuous series other than my own, like, Sick of This Show, where I do my own stuff. But you and I have been going. That's awesome. I love this. It's been over 10 weeks because we've had to miss a week or two here once in a
Yep.
while, but we've done things solo, we've done it together. We've kept this going and I love it. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, we also had how many shows even before Banner and Backbone, right? I think we did 5 or 6 episodes prior.
Yeah, we might have too. I think I counted those in as what we were doing, but I don't actually remember if I did.
I think you started at 1. If I'm correct, because I remember the last episode we did um before was like, yeah, it's been going so long, like it's blurred into the past, like that's how we've been doing this for a while.
Yeah. And so we've covered a lot of topics. We've covered a lot of different things through all of this, mostly about metadata and how what that means and how you can minimize your metadata in a world of surveillance and collection. And so I only thought it was fitting to talk about one of the biggest purveyors of surveillance and collection in the US, and one that is becoming increasingly more prevalent in our society and our daily lives is Palantir itself.
Yeah.
And the Um, um, and Palantir's founder, Peter Thiel specifically, and his views on regulations, and how that's impacting our current lives and what that actually really means for us. And I was listening in on Dana Dubois and Lawrence Winterman's show on Gen XE this morning, and they had Tony Michaels on. And from the Tony Michaels show, like the Rush Limbaugh of the left was what he was called at one point. Um, and he has some really cool stuff to say about everything going on and how he's seeing it as a shift in the new mentalities in the parties. But there was some stuff they were introducing around some ideas around the like speed of government and how important it is that governments actually go slow compared to going really fast. And what that means and how we're seeing it in society right now is on a high level, we get extrajudicial killings in the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico and outside the Gulf of Mexico, in the Caribbean itself with Venezuelan boats, Colombians, Ecuadorians, anyone from the Caribbean Isles. And he was talking about the speed of government is part of the problem right now, is they can move really fast because it's one person making a decision and there's no regulation around it. It's just one person making that decision. And so it goes really, really fast.
Yep.
But it also means that there's no due process. There's no should we do this? There's no approvals. There's no public oversight. There's no asking, do we want to do this as a country? Should we go to war? Why are we going to war? That's the discourse that government makes and is on purpose. And he had a really good point, and I'm extrapolating from his point, is that regulations are the key to slowing government down to do the benefit of the people and to benefit its citizenry. And we've been convinced that regulations, as Peter Thiel put it, are the Antichrist. And so before I pull up the article that I'm going to bring up for this one, to just talk about is, Shane, what are your thoughts on that? Do you consider generally, do you consider regulations to be the Antichrist? And two, as a follow up to that question, is do you think that governments should move really, really fast or really, really slow? Or is there an in between?
Yeah. So first of all, like the idea, a couple things, but obviously, like I think regulation has an essential part of any form of governance. But I also think that regulation and efficiency, they're not diametrically opposed whatsoever. In fact, I think that regulation in and of itself is something that can be innovated just like any other um, tool or process. To the irony of all of these tech bros trying to streamline the government is that we could very well streamline our regulation. And I think about this a lot. If there's one thing that AI would be exceptional for, it would be regulatory oversight in the government. Um, because all you would need is the AI is probably the best thing AI is good for is scraping massive sets of data, and aggregating, looking for anomalies, etc. Now, like the large language models and all of that, I think what we're finding, like the only tool I genuinely find AI useful for, is research aggregation. Like that is the only thing I like. I don't want it to interpret data. I don't want it to do that kind of thing. It is good at scraping and aggregating. And then you, as the user of the tool, you need to go and verify. But AI is very good at aggregation. And so I think in terms of regulation, imagine instead of you have human oversight, you have AI oversight overseen by humans.
Yes.
And that's where I think that regulation isn't the Antichrist, it's the solution. But it needs to be streamlined because you also are looking at a situation where without regulation, you have this even to the benefit of an executive decision maker, which is Stephen Miller, usually probably dictated to a large degree at first by Peter Thiel, but now I'm more and more beginning to believe it's his own agenda at this point. Just like Trump is a wild card, I think he's also, gone pretty wild. But, I think that sense of it has its own failures, right? Especially when you look at fascism and cronyism, and you have speed, but you also have quality and execution. And you don't have those things in alignment. So I think one of the biggest failings we're looking at right now is one, regulation isn't the Antichrist. It's a solution to a human-run government in which we are exceptionally flawed, very susceptible to corruption. And if you are to have any form of capitalist system to endure in this country, it requires oversight. Imagine an SEC that monitors the trade market through an non-biased algorithm. It just picks up and flags trades. Imagine it can just freeze. Imagine it watches companies, and when you see them, when that AI model sees a company offload a shitload of stock, which would increase their value, vice versa, deflate the value. When you see a hedge fund acting, it can stop that. I see in the chat, crypto. Yes, there's things that can monitor. If anything is going to be able to catch up with the manipulation and the cheating, it's going to be AI. That's what it's good for. And that's where you say a lot, Nick. AI could be used for good. It's
like
more
we're
a
not
matter of
against tech
people
here.
just choosing to use it for good. So to answer your first question, no, it's not the Antichrist. It just needs to be used responsibly. Two, do I think government should move fast or slow? In short, I think that it should move fairly quickly. I do believe the government should be able to make decisions quickly. If a government functioned, and that's our issue, it's not that the government would be slow. It's the government doesn't work, and that's by design. They don't want change. They want a slow crawl so they can poke holes in it as everything happens to benefit themselves. There's no problem with an efficient government. In fact, I would think that we all want efficient government. If anything, the great failing of our government is its perception as this like antiquated, slow bureaucracy. When, like all things, it could very well be streamlined and done well. And I go back always to this point of an effective government accommodates for our failings as people and our failings and our flaws as people. We have to understand that without regulating ourselves, we're not going to be able to regulate a large territory like the United States. So, I mean, government should be fast. It should be efficient, and it should be effective.
Yeah.
And we are capable of making a government like that because
we lost Shane for a second there.
Yeah.
Nope, we lost me for a second there.
Oh.
All right. Last I heard was government should be fast or could be fast.
It could be fast. Because if we use the tools that we have created, within, like I always say, like I think a fourth branch of government should come out of this, a regulatory body responsible for regulating the other bodies. I also think the president might need to be regulated to its role might need to be reduced to something more like Germany, where it's a more ceremonial role. I think what we've seen now is that the executive branch has too much power. I think that I think Congress should oversee the majority of these responsibilities. I don't even know if, I don't see a reason why after all of this, we would leave a single individual with so much freaking power, because that's the reason this happened. They're like, there's no reason for like the fact that every single enforcement body in our government has been entirely compromised because one of the branches of government has failed. Like, because
Yeah.
let's be honest, like, even if Congress was doing its job, like, which they're not at all, they would still have to like bring all these people before them. They still answer directly to the executive branch. So that's why I think, you know, autocracy and authoritarianism is it's so appealing, especially in the face of slow, sluggish bureaucracy, is the expediency of it. Um,
Yes.
that's really it. Like, people are tired of no change, so they swap to any change at all. Um, but what we're going to see here is that, and we have seen, is that realistically, like, nothing's being done. There's nothing's been done in the long run. Like, the only thing that's been done is like a gross wasting of taxpayer dollars and criminal
Hmm.
activity. I mean, in terms of like actual policy or anything along those lines, this is less effective than anything even I've lived through, because Congress haven't passed anything. I mean, there's like maybe 3 or 4 bills, but like even that, like, it's been
Yeah.
non-functional crony. Yeah. So I think government should be fast, it should be efficient, but also like this government is none of those things. It is just a criminal enterprise that's not doing any governing whatsoever.
So I'm going to answer the question that Rick Herbst asked us in the chat, specifically at you, but I'm going to answer it anyway, and then let you answer it too. So Shane, was Curtis Yarvin right? Should it all be burned to the ground? No, no, he was not. He's not right. It should not be all burned to the ground. We have a really good framework. We have a really good base. Like, there's no reason to destroy the Constitution or the constitutional system in America, like the constitutional republic and the way that our government is formed overall didn't need restructuring. We don't need to restructure from by burning down Congress and burning down the executive and burning down the judiciary. I think we actually need to be more conservative in our view of what the Constitution is and the framework that it provides in some ways is that we need to return powers to their correct Article 1 power of Congress being the most important body. And I do like what you're talking about, Shane, is like hyper efficiency in Congress could be really well achieved. I'm actually not even going to pull up the article about Peter Thiel, um, because I think we're just having a better discussion so far. I may pull that article up while we're going, um, about Peter Thiel himself, but we don't need to talk about Thiel himself to talk about our regulations, the Antichrist, and how we could make it more efficient. And I think maybe talking about the efficiencies and improvements we could consider and offer is a better use of our time than just talking about how Peter Thiel sucks. Because we know that regulations are not the Antichrist, and I don't want to sit in his framework of living. So I'll pose this to you. Thinking about the use of AI and like making, say, the House of Representatives or just legislature and the legislative branch in general more efficient, is bills should be tied to a single thing. They should not be allowed to have extra like sub shit that's not related to the bill attached to them. So a bill should only be about one law or one idea itself,
Yep.
and doesn't get to have other shit. And AI can be used to verify the language of the bill, check whether it is specifically promoting a religious organization or religious views over others, with just a simple algorithm of looking at I mean, AI has access to all of the religious texts of every single fucking religion out there. You'd think it would be able to say, yeah, this bias is towards this religion over that one. We could easily put that in there and have language that says it has to have a neutral bias or cannot be biased towards any religion in one specific way, things like that. And so, what are your thoughts on using AI like that, where it then hyper efficient, hyper makes, sorry, It makes the voting process streamlined and more efficient because then it also ensures that language is readable by um, the general populace, and it's a single idea per bill.
Yeah, I think two things. I think the first thing you said is absolutely true. I think that, and this is where I think that it just will continue to highlight what a regulatory use of AI is possible. Like, consider too, like what the first thing, like he said, that I want everyone in the chat to consider is, okay, so why does every single bill have to have things in it that are not related to the bill? Like, they literally, the way they stopped, okay, this defense spending bill in the Senate was they put language in a defense budget that would have mandated the release of the Epstein files. Think about that for a second. Just like think that, just that as an example of what the, like, what?
Yeah.
How are you able to put the Epstein files in the defense budget? Like,
Yeah, like nothing to do with, well, it could possibly have something to do with defense,
now it certainly
but
has a lot to do with national security, but in just in this
but
particular case,
budgetarily, no.
the reason this is such a thing is because of lobbying. So they
Yeah.
can slide certain things into bills. If you look at like laws, if you look at bills that are put forward, honestly, I think a law should be maybe 2 pages maximum. It should be in a position where um, you should be able to, as a citizen, comprehend everything within a law within one look. You should not need a fucking lawyer to interpret these laws. Like, it should be that
Yes.
simple. Okay? Like,
Yeah.
the language, the laws, everything is complex on purpose. It's to keep the layman ignorant, and that's an essential part of governance, and that's where I think all this AI oversight and regulation could be entirely key. Like, a congressperson wants to pass a bill on, put it up for the House. Okay, so let's do a hypothetical. We have this new oversight body. Okay, and I've had this concept for a long time. I think this might be the only way to, one, you asked me a question earlier, Rick did, about does it all need to be burned down? No. But it needs to be entirely reimagined. So what I mean by that is not that, like, I always go back to the tree of democracy needs to be refreshed from time to time. The tree is dead. Okay, like, it's dead, but there might be 1 or 2 roots left. So what we need to do to run with this analogy is use a different kind of fertilizer. Regrow this tree from those roots that remain, which are the ideals of the Constitution. Because
Mhm.
in terms of its execution, it's not ready for 2025. It's not. It's not a document that was ever prepared for 2025. You can see this in every aspect of it, whether it's firearms or, regulation, like
Or privacy
privacy, any
of
of these
any
things,
sort,
right? Like, they were more worried about some soldiers coming into your home. Like,
which I'm still okay with. I'm still okay with because that one specifically is a privacy law,
oh,
and
no,
people
absolutely.
forget
I guess,
that.
but my point is
No, no,
that,
no, no. I'm not contradicting you. I'm just saying
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
one is such a super strong one because that is really a privacy law
Yes.
because you cannot put soldiers into your home, which means your home is private. Your home is your castle,
Yes.
and they can't intrude on it.
Yeah, my
Anyway,
point
sorry,
was
back to
that
your thought.
that was their highest point of escalation, their highest point of concern in terms of privacy was like, the soldiers have to go into your home to violate your privacy. Where that's like not even, that doesn't even begin to cover the levels of privacy violation that we face on a daily basis. And so in that sense, what I think in terms of reimagining would be to consider that a fourth branch of government based on the concept of the inspector general. Unfortunately, it only came about under the executive branch, which made it so easy to get rid of them because the inspector generals answered to the executive branch. So they fire them and they have to rehire them, and they're not going to do it. Like, and it's just another example of how legacy media has entirely failed. There's so many things that they just don't talk about. And so in that
And it's
sense, this fourth branch, it would exist strictly for nonpartisan oversight. it would utilize these AI tools. And the reason I was talking about this is in Congress, say a congressman wants to submit a bill. Well, that bill is then put up to the system, this advanced, streamlined, efficient regulatory system where Congress people could bring bills almost immediately from their population, from their constituents. They say, these are my constituents. They want this. Boom, 2 pages. It goes up to the system. The Inspector General branch, they oversee it. They have tools that they use, these AI tools. It goes and it says, yes, this bill is acceptable. No, this bill is not acceptable. It shows signs of partisanship. In this, it's religious leaning here. You can resubmit it if you fix these things. Boom, it passes A, B, C, D. Perfect. Good. Hits the floor. You can vote, right? If a bill goes in, like there's a law, a Congress cannot push a vote for a certain thing. Okay, like it has X amount of time. Like this whole like filibustering, all of the strategies that they have
all of
used.
The Senate is antiquated.
Right. It all needs to be reimagined, right? Because the concept is good, but let's make a modern government for a modern time. There's no point. Like the world requires expediency. Like, for example, me and Nick, right before this, I was talking to him about Hurricane Melissa. This hurricane is the worst storm we have seen in the Caribbean in modern history. It is going to probably wipe Jamaica off the map. And I mean that like literally. Like I made a note about this storm, but this is like a situation where if we're going to address the problems we face, we need to be able to act expediently. We need to be able to get things done. And all of this can be done. That's the thing. That's why they're so afraid of losing power too. That's why they need to muck everything up, because they know if things were efficient, they wouldn't be able to do anything. So, I mean, I think that I guess to conclude all of that, I think that we need to reimagine things. Think we need to come back. We need to learn from this. Even if he is removed, I would expect, and the people should demand, an expedient amendment to the United States Constitution to ensure that these things are stopped immediately. Like the first,
that there's no immunity. That there's no immunity for congressmen, presidents, or
like not
that
even
there's like you don't get immunity unless
absolutely,
and you have to tell the truth.
I think that's like the bare minimum. Like I think the first thing that's done is Congress amends the Constitution, and the presidency, it loses 60% of its power. I mean, we need to learn. We need to learn, and we need to act on what we've just experienced. The presidency needs to be changed. Congress needs to be empowered. Oversight needs to be put into place. Under no circumstances can he just be removed and it goes back to business as usual. Absolutely not. There is no, like, if that happens, he gets out, like, and they drag our feet, then we march on Washington. As long, because they're not willing to shoot us if he's not there, but we damn well better can handle things, because we cannot, under any circumstance, allow things to slow down when he is removed.
Yeah, we have to keep going forward fast.
It has to be, because we're on the pendulum, right? Everyone talks about the pendulum. Okay, we're on the full upswing. It's like one of those boats, right, at the carnival that kill everybody when they like break, and we're all on the boat, and we're all the way up at the top of the right now. Like that's where we've hit. I think it's so awful. I don't think I really think that like we're nearing the very top of that right swing. So what happens is we need to, when the swing comes back left, because we have to understand that it is inevitable. This momentum is inevitable. So when it comes back, we need to ride that. We need to demand that it keeps going. We can't allow them to like pump the brakes on it. That's not acceptable. Citizens United needs to be overturned immediately. I'm not a lawyer, but I've said this. If you just impeach the 6 justices, it's not like the Supreme Court shuts down. You just have 3, and they would be able to rule as Supreme Court justices.
So let's go back, because there was a comment in the chat, and I want to make sure it's very clear what we mean to around Congress can change the Constitution. Article 5 of the Constitution says that Congress can propose amendments
Correct.
which can then pass two-thirds majority from both House and Senate. They then have to be ratified by three-fourths of the states.
Correct.
Congress itself, though, can propose and
Yeah.
pass constitutional amendments. So, yes, they can. But ratification then comes from us. The thing is, if you have two-thirds of Congress who agree on something, you probably have three-fifths of the states that do.
Correct.
Like,
It's
or
intentional.
three-fourths
It's
of the
intentionally
states,
that way.
three-quarters of the states. Like, it's intentional that it's hard to pass these things, but it's also really convenient when you have a whole group of people who are starting to realize, as Tony Michaels was talking about, this is where I want to get your opinion on this too, about because it's part of the regulatory thing, is we are in the midst of a reorganization of the parties in this country while it like in the process of it right now is that we are seeing what happens when Article 1 of the Constitution, which is Congress's powers to legislate and purse strings, abdicate that for Article 2 ownership. And we've been seeing that for decades now, is this unitary executive theory where we've been giving the president more and more power and Congress has been abdicating more and more power. The easiest thing we can do to make a lot of progress really fast is strip the president and the executive branch of every power that is not outlined in the Constitution and give all of the power back to Congress where it should be, because then that would actually force Congress to do its job. Because then Congress actually has to work, and people will find out really, really, really quick that shitty congressmen or congresswomen or congresspeople just aren't going to do the work. So we're seeing a shift in our parties where the Democratic Party, a lot of it, at least the National Party, really stuck, isn't doing anything. But you're starting to see people like Chris Murphy's come out and say that we should be limiting executive power and returning it to Congress. You then, on the other side, have Marjorie Taylor Greene doing the same thing because they're stripping the moral and cultural piece out of politics when it comes to this. And we need to be willing to do that. We need to be willing to take people up like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who we do not agree with on any moral or ethical stance. But if she's going to fight against a unitary executive and return power back to Congress, then we have to be willing to work with her. And it's, to me, I think that's really where we're at, is that we're at the point where we need to form new alliances and not forgive or forget the harm that has been done by the current groups, but be willing to work with them on the issues and accept them back in partially to realign the party structure, because the parties are broken and they both need to die. Like, they're old, they're antiquated. We need to have a more parliamentary system, because that would actually represent the people. But also on this like quick AI and oversight piece that you're talking about, is Rick Herbst proposed the idea too is an app. Why isn't there an app for that? Like, Congress gets a bill or puts together a bill, legislators write a bill, they submit it to the
Inspector General.
inspector general branch or the inspector's branch to ensure that it's ethically, morally, and religiously non-biased, that it doesn't contain hyperpartisan language, that it is very, very, very like straightforward, is then everyone in the country who is a citizen gets access to an app that you can freely hit. Maybe Congress has a web page that you could freely go to. And then there would be an app and the language would have to be there. Like you said, it would have to be readable by human beings. And then citizens could also propose feedback to it that would allow them for very quick feedback from citizens, where people are actually having to propose real legislation that gets real feedback in real time. And it has to have a certain amount of feedback, like real feedback and stuff. And the AI can filter out bad feedback and what is considered hyperpartisan, because it would be seen and overwatched by humans. Like, there is a human factor in all of this. Is the AI doesn't make the final choice.
It's
The
a
AI is
tool.
just a tool.
It's
It's
a
a
tool.
research tool.
Like, we need
Um,
to like hammer that into like people's brains, like understand like what they're trying to use AI for too. I really think that this is interesting because I've started to realize this. Everything Palantir and all of them are trying to do, I don't think AI is up to the task. I
no,
think that we're looking at this AI bubble. As someone who has experience in the tech world, I think that you probably have more insight than I do in terms of its limitations. But what I think we're seeing is the trillions, because it is like around a couple $1 trillion. I want to say it was like 3 trillion that we've put into AI, like cumulative. It's a stupid amount of money.
yes.
But what this bubble is, and it's like the .com bubble. That's what these people are starting to say. And I was reading an article the other day about how the hedge funds are getting ready to circumvent the AI bubble because it's going to pop or whatever, because it is going to pop. But um, that's an entirely new hedge funds just make my brain go somewhere else.
Oh
So
God, I
I'm
hate
gonna
hedge funds.
redirect my thoughts. But um, that whole idea in and of itself is like, it's not up to the task of what they want it to be. It's probably not even up to the task of what ICE is trying to do with it. It's probably not doing as good a job as they want you to believe. But
No.
what it can do is it can do simple things really fast, really well. And that's why we talk about the aggregation side of this and data oversight. But yes, to your point, it needs to be a tool. It needs to be viewed as a hammer. It needs to be viewed as a magnifying glass. I honestly think that's an even better analogy. Is it's just a really good magnifying glass that lets you zoom in on what's important
Yeah.
without having to. That's how you make a bureaucracy expedient, right? Is by
Mhm.
removing all of the time that it would take to go through all of these things without. But it's essential you have the human element because we are humans and we need, that particular part of, our government to uh, be expedient for things to be done in a modern world because things move fast now.
Yeah. Yeah. But all of this, and in all of this, this is regulation. Like, we're talking about a regulation. The AI would be a regulatory tool, a regulatory body basically into itself, that we as a citizenry continue to, and this is where it requires like active engagement, because it asks us as citizens to participate, and I think that's what we've been convinced we don't need to do. Um, and because everything has been made so corrupt but also so complex, we've added so much complexity and redundancy into our system. And sure, I do agree with the concept of Doge, like the concept of improving efficiency in the government. Absolutely. Get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. We know what the waste, fraud, and abuse is. It's not the regulatory system, it's the way we implement the regulatory system. It's also the lobbyists are the waste, fraud, and abuse. The people throwing money at a system instead of fixing the problem are the waste, fraud, and abuse. They just want to pump more money in, or like ignore problems. Whereas, like you said, we have these simple tools that are coming online, or these incredibly powerful tools that are coming online. It's like when we grew up, or for millennials and older, you grew up with Encyclopedia Britannica. You had to read that shit. You had to read from A to Z to figure out what was going on, and it was outdated. AI can be that tool that helps you read the encyclopedia in 10 seconds rather than 10 weeks. Like, it gives you the information and power, but it doesn't make you do the homework yourself. This is what something Tony Michaels was talking about this morning with Dana Dubois and Lawrence Winterman, is the platform on the, or this is how I summed it up from their conversation about it, was he said it was homework. is the difference between Republicans and Democrats. Is Republicans tell you what to think. Democrats give you homework to decide how you should think. And nobody wants to do fucking homework. So let the AI do the homework for you and simplify it. And yes, you then have to validate a little bit. You have to verify, but that's because you're inquisitive as a human being and want to know more and don't just accept answers at face values. Not asking you to do more, but encouraging you to want to do it is different than asking you to do homework. Like encouraging you to want to learn just as to learn instead of making it feel like homework is the part that AI can help us do. Like AI can take these really great 12-point plans that the Democrats have put together on that some Democrats have put together on like how to improve things and simplify it into a 30-second blurb that everybody could understand or an executive summary that everybody could read. Like bills should have an executive summary on them if they're too complex to read in more than 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Like
I
that
agree.
should be it.
I agree.
Like, but I think we need to. All of this is to say is regulation is not the Antichrist, and burning the system down is not the way to go. Reimagining a system that's already in place, that's totally fine. We do that all the time. That's just
Right.
called growth. Like keeping a thing progressing is called growth. Using AI to monitor microtransactions on crypto exchanges and seeing where our government is spending or wasting money or just sending money into the abyss, or regulatory bodies like that to ensure that companies are not doing microtransactions like that, to waste energy, to destroy the system, to undermine the dollar, to undermine profits, things like that. We need regulatory bodies in place because people are inherently greedy. We know this. Humans are inherently greedy. It's not a bad thing. It's not bad that humans inherently want more. It's what drives us to learn. It's how you use your greed. It's how you focus your greed into product, into like value for yourself. Like, I'm greedy. I want all the knowledge. I want to know everything. I want to know how things work. I'm very greedy, but
I'm
I'm
gonna,
not
yeah, I
egotistical
wanna,
about my greed.
okay, like I don't want to challenge you, but I want to
No,
challenge you
challenge me, bro.
to redefine a couple things you're saying here,
Yeah,
because
challenge me, man.
I don't think greed is the right word. I think that humans are greedy. Is yes, it's true. We have the potential to be greedy. What we seek more than anything is comfort. We seek to be comfortable. We seek to feel like we have enough. Now, what's happened is that there's a certain subset of people that have more than they need, but then they want more. They feel that for them to feel comfortable or secure, they need everything. And that particular subset of people is enriched and empowered through capitalism. Capitalism takes that group of people, the people who are unwilling to settle and less willing to, stop. It empowers them, and it makes them exceptionally, it puts them in a position where other people might stop and be like, okay, cool, like I got my car, I have my house, I have a manageable system of payments, I can probably do this, or I have all my things and I don't have debt, like cool, I'm good, like I don't need 10 houses, like I live in one house, like why do I need to go and do all these things? And then you had several generations of this group of people, this exceptionally small group of people who are the worst of us. They are the worst of humanity. Okay, like we have to. Like there is not and I'm gonna say it, like people don't like. I have a hard time believing there's any good billionaires, because any good person would look at their wealth and say, "Why do I need this? Why do I
Oh
need
yeah,
this?"
I agree.
So like, don't a good billionaire wouldn't be a billionaire. That's my position. Like they would say, oh well, they donate millions of dollars a day. Good, donate it all. Cap your own wealth. Be like, I don't need to have more than X. Like I give like every dollar I make goes to feeding certain people. or building homes. Like a good billionaire wouldn't exist. I firmly believe that. So it's the very idea of greed. And to your point, what makes you want to have knowledge, what makes you want to be better, it's not greed. It's a desire to be the informed. And I think, again, that's an idea. It's the pursuit of comfort, of feeling like safe within your sphere by being aware and prepared and ability to act and do these things. It's, again, I think greed is what comes after comfort, because there is, that is what I truly believe drives people, is to have enough. Now there's a certain percentage of people that hit that point, and there's something within them that is not capable of, and that's like, I think that's a sickness. I think there's like a hollowness there. It's these people who usually are sociopaths and don't have the ability to like emotionally feel like satisfied in that they've actually achieved what's enough. Because if they feel nothing, they're just constantly chasing the dopamine high of being rich, then that's what you get. And that's why regulation is so important. It circles right back to what we're talking about.
Mhm.
Regulation is the only way to stop this. Like a regulatory, I'm a huge advocate of a wealth cap. It doesn't take anything from anyone. It stops people from taking things from other people. That's the difference. Okay. Like, and in a system where people are taken care of by a government, they wouldn't care if they had a wealth cap, because they would have enough. They would have what they need. And it would stop people from being so desperate, or like coming from poverty and being like, I have had nothing, so I must have everything. Right. And that's why you have a lot of these poor communities being so pro-billionaire, because all they want is to be that way. So if you stop the billionaires from being a billionaire, they can't be one day, even though the billionaires won't let them. It's psychological.
Yeah. And not to push back on that idea at all, this is where universal basic income would be really beneficial in a modern AI driven society. That AI could produce a lot of wealth for the US in a lot of various ways, and could be sold to other countries and used in a lot of really, really positive ways and solve a lot of good problems. I think I do agree we need a wealth cap. I think at some point, becoming that uber wealthy just changes you. But I do think a lot of it is driven from greed for a lot of people, but I don't see greed as a bad. I'm not using greed as in a bad way. I agree with you that it's greed, like greed to be comfortable. Like, I'm greedy because I need to find the things to make sure that I'm comfortable. I have to have this. I need to make sure I get this. I don't see that as a bad greed. Greed to control, that's definitely a bad greed. And that's where regulatory systems do work really well, is they stop greedy people from becoming so greedy that they eat it all. Like, they take a cake and make the smaller cake. By becoming greedy, they take everything and they just leave you with the breadcrumbs. I want a greedy government that says you hit that certain point and everything goes back to the people. Everything else goes back to people in power or in the system, and that we should have a wealth minimum as well, that that is sustained through a universal basic income.
It's a positive feedback loop. It's literally, and actually what would happen is we would become so absurdly wealthy from that we would be able to change the whole fucking world, because we could pay back the national debt, because if you don't have to pay for healthcare, if you don't have to, and I'm going to say things that people are going to be like, that's insane. You know why you think it's insane is because they want you to think that the government could never provide this. You have access to housing now. If you are doing it, if you wanted to upgrade your house or buy one, you absolutely can. But you have access to minimum standard housing. Okay. You have access to food at all times. If you wanted to get additional food or a luxury item, that would be available to you because people would still want to spend excess money. But
Yeah.
if you have all of these things and people, to your point, are greedy, so maybe they want to have something a little extra, that doesn't have to go away. You can
No,
still
it
have a
doesn't.
business. You can still, if you cap your wealth, right, at say $1 million, okay, that means you never have to have less than $1 million. You can always be hitting that. You can always hit that top line. So if you wanted to go absolutely nuts and like spend $1 million, if you saved up to it, that's cool, right? Like, but like at the same time, it's not going to allow you to accumulate so much that you're not going to be able to hit that bracket over and over again. And like at the end of the day, like people in that situation, you have such a strong positive feedback loop. The quality of living that the government that are, and it's not the government anymore, it's a society. We each have pride in the fact that we pay in to the quality of life for everybody. It gives you a
Yeah.
certain sense of validation because you know that your work and what you're doing, it builds communalism, right? It's a positive feedback loop that builds communalism because you get to look around and you got to be like, damn, this country is awesome. We have the best healthcare. We live in beautiful homes. We're 100% clean energy. Everyone has jobs. Our education is awesome. And it's because I managed to reach that wealth cap and I pay into this system. And I'm proud that I hit the wealth cap. I'm not limited by the wealth cap. I'm proud that I got there because now it means everything I do is building the future of my country. It would
Yeah.
make people feel good. It's just because they're greedy as fuck that they don't want
Yeah.
people to think about that.
But whereas and I understand the pushback on why people are saying greed is a negative term. I think we need to accept that greed is neutral. We just view it as negative because only the most negative people use greed as their motivator. I use greed because I'm greedy for knowledge. Greed is, for me, is I need knowledge. I need to keep learning. I cannot sit still and not learn. I'm greedy for knowledge. I don't find that a bad thing. I find it really good that I am greedy for knowledge because then I keep asking questions like why and how and what for and when, where. You ask all the five W's and the H question who, what, when, where, why, how all the time. That's what I do. I'm greedy for knowledge, but I don't see it as a bad thing. I do understand why people put greed as a bad thing because it's typically associated with ego and evil intent of I'm so greedy, I just want, and I'm going to take power. I don't want power. My greed is on knowledge, and I'm obsessed with learning. And I think that's okay. And I think the thing is though, like it's, it puts a purposeful cap on greed, is what regulation does. It puts a meaningful cap on greed so that everything comes back because we have lost the idea that our society is supposed to be communities and like communal driven and that everything is supposed to help our community and come back to our community, and the whole point we pay taxes is so that we get better things for our communities, for our country, but we don't ever see that return.
You
What
want to
we're
know?
demanding is a return on that, which is a minimum basic income for everybody, including your kids, so that they can be supported. It is the most socialist idea there is for a government. We already have that system. We do it for billionaires every single fucking day. We're just asking for it for everybody else so that the billionaires don't exist because they have $100 million or whatever the cap is. But who needs that much fucking money? Like, if all of your basic necessities are taken care of, you don't have to worry about food. Your Maslow's hierarchy of need, where you have food, comfort, and protection, and like your basic needs are all covered. How much better of a society would we be? Because then you could actually go out and greedily take that knowledge that you want. You could go out and you could passionately learn to be an artist. You could take all your obsession and go, fuck, I want to do that because I know at the end of the day, I have a home, I have food, I'm cared for, but I have the choice to continue growing. Well, and it doesn't stop people from being lazy either. Like there are people who will always take advantage of that and just never want to grow, but that's okay. They're still part of society. Um, but like the rest of us who want to continue moving forward, they're taken care of. The lowest in our society, if you raise the level for the lowest in society, everybody else raises too. Like that is the outcome.
There is in the system like that like I advocate for and you're advocating for, there is no low. That's the point. It's
Yes.
it's a system of fundamentally the system is equality. Everyone has the same level of opportunity, and it's because of that that everyone is able to contribute to a positive feedback loop. Like it's literally it the you don't even like you can't, and that's the thing for me that's crazy is like if you just look like you can't argue against that. Like you install a limit and then it cycles back in. It's literally like one of those infinite waterfalls. Okay. Except imagine every time the water went in, some more water was created. So eventually you just be going crazy because every person who is successful contributes to the whole. The argument
Mm-hmm.
against it is strictly like it's because this country is so fundamentally driven into this idea of that individualism and success are the same thing. And it's like it's a sickness, and it that sickness has polluted the entire world. Like our ideology has seeped into like all of these European countries because billionaires, they take their money and they go other places. These corporations, they expand. It's globalism. But the thing is, like, all of this is linked to us. So if we heal our own sickness, like that power gets scaled back. Like because we are the polluter, not only in the world in terms of a global warming sense, but in terms of like a moral, ethical money sense. If we heal our own sickness, it will pull back all of these other things, all of the tendrils that come out of that. And if they all want to run away to New Zealand,
Mm-hmm.
guess what? We
New
sanction New
Zealand
Zealand.
don't want them.
Like we sanction them. Be like, okay, fine. Like be worth a shitload of money in New Zealand. You can't spend your money anywhere else. Okay, like
Yeah.
like they want you to think they're so powerful, but like the law exists for a reason, and like it's very simple. Like they only are able to circumvent the law because the law is allowing them to circumvent it, because Citizens United, because they've bought the Congress, because all these things. But
And
what
so I'm
I
going to
really
answer
think,
a question here real quick in the chat from, because this fits in really, really well with what we're talking about. Is
Mhm.
Rick, good friend of the chat and good friend of the show. Rick says 60 years of data from the United Kingdom unfortunately disagrees with the assertion that more social support, that what we're talking about social support. And his next statement was their productivity has been declining as more social welfare comes online. I ask in response to this, because I just did a show on this morning.
I also have a
Does your
rebuttal to this
productivity
sentiment.
does your productivity equal your value though?
Yes,
Because
I
I
also
don't
have.
care if your productivity slips. My productivity went down significantly since I lost my job as a tech worker. I worked almost 80 to 100 hours a week most weeks as a tech worker. My productivity has slipped drastically. I don't do that now. But my value has shifted from what work tells me I'm worth to what I tell myself I'm worth. And that's where we are stuck in this idea. No, Rick, I'm glad you are playing the the real devil's advocate in this, because you're actually putting ideas out there that are like real tangible. We're not talking devil's advocate of the like I just put shitty ideas out there like MAGA does, where it's just bad and they don't make sense just to play devil's advocate. Rick is putting a real devil's advocate for us, and I think that's good because it's a discussion on this. And Rick, I'd love to have you on for a Palantalk sometime so we can talk
Absolutely.
more on this idea.
Absolutely. We love
Um,
it.
we'll plan something with you, but I just think we need to get over the idea that productivity equates value, because I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit how productive you are. I care, is your immeasurable human value valued? Like,
Well, and who's measuring your productivity? Number one. So for first thing,
yeah.
what's the measurement of your productivity? That's a corporation saying you did X, Y, and Z. Okay. You did this much work. And they can even say productivity goes down. By what metric? Productivity has skyrocketed since the 70s. Wages have stagnated since the 70s. Okay.
Hmm.
Like people want to pull this data around. I'm fucking ready for you. So let's go. Like they want to throw that shit around. Like that argument. And I love that you brought it up, Rick, because it's so like not to call you stupid, but it's because it's not your talking point, but it's fucking stupid. And let me tell you why. You put a wealth cap in, you say, okay, I said this earlier, make it $1 million. Okay. Everyone is provided a fundamental basic status. But what is essential is we're not talking about socialism. We're not talking about capitalism. We're talking about a system of government that learns from the failures of both. We're talking about one, socialism has never been effectively tried. You can argue yes and no. That's not true because capitalism has tainted every form of fundamental socialism that we see in the world to a certain degree. But guess what? By implementing a wealth cap, you're not saying you can't have new things. You're not saying you can't be driven by that capitalist desire to have more because we still can have those things because you want to reach the wealth cap. The idea is you want to reach the wealth cap so you can say you're contributing to the overall society. There is not only a drive that pushes you to communalism, but you also get money with that, right? Like, and if you wanted to never push to the wealth cap, if you wanted to like not get there, but you're still talking about I want to have money to get things, I want to work hard. Okay, like people are still going to be successful. And then the argument might be, well, no one's going to try and get to the wealth cap if there's basic things. Well, guess what? Like the economy would consistently grow. And also the original drop in the bucket would be so fucking big from these billionaires that like everyone's going
You
to be
could
like, oh my
literally
God,
fix every system like that.
I have the fundamental things I need. I want all these other things I never thought I could have. Let me work harder. And then because you're assuming that people are just going to stop and accept that they have the minimum. No, they're still going to want a new car. They're still going to want a bigger house. They're still going to want all these things. And as long as they can get them, as long as they're driven, and then they're still going to want to be able to maintain those things. Okay.
And
So
even building off of that, the homemaker concept. Like we have unpaid labor all the time. If like my wife, well, she was the homemaker and still is in a lot of ways, does labor almost 24/7, 365. Like we we don't pay for certain labor. We only pay for masculine sounding labor. We don't pay for feminine sounding labor a lot of time. Because homemaker doesn't get paid. It is an unpaid job. Um, However, universal basic income would pay a homemaker to be able to, one, take care of their home and help.
birth
And
rates.
birth rates would go up because people would be financially taken care of. They would be safe. They would be protected. They would know they would not lose their house if they didn't have a job, and that they would be guaranteed a place to live after their child was born, after they got universally accepted healthcare. They would also know that their child would have an education system to go into that is funded through our taxes. The thing is, like, it's not free healthcare I want. It is taxpayer funded healthcare that I want. It is not free education I want. It is taxpayer education that I want.
Yeah.
It is not free homemakers that I want. It is taxpayer paid homemakers that I want through universal basic income. So if they choose to want to do something else because now they have time to pay a nanny, let's say for a couple hours a day, so that they can go and learn something that they want to do, fucking yes. Like amazing. That is what I want. I want people to have access so that our basic needs are met, because unlike people on the right, when somebody who might unintentionally get something that they don't like, they want to tear it away. I'm okay with people unintentionally getting something if it means they have a quality of life that is better than dying and being taken care of. Like I want to I want that. Like that's where the greed comes in too, is I want that. I want to be taken care of too in those ways. I want my basic needs met so that I can then go out and learn more. I want my basic needs met so that I can go spend time in my community and relearn an instrument and then go play in the park or something and brighten other people's day.
Yeah, we all want to
I
be those
want,
old dudes in Russia that just sit in the park and play chess. Like, how
yes,
fucking nice would that be? Like, like that's like if there's like, because let's be honest, like, or like New York, because like Russia, they're those guys all got mobilized and they're probably dead in a field in Ukraine now. But like, in terms of like, and even that, then there's the argument too. They're like, oh, well, no one will pay taxes. You can still tax people up to the wealth cap, but you just wouldn't tax them. It would have to be like a flat tax, right?
yeah,
And
we're
you can
literally
still
talking about Star
accumulate
Trek.
wealth and be taxed. Like every counter argument to what we're talking about is null and void because we have such a good Kickstarter fund. We have $15.2 trillion worth of a Kickstarter fund sitting there to jumpstart this system. And even if, let's say, half of that system it's all bullshit inflated wealth. Okay, fine. That's still a $7 trillion Kickstarter fund. And imagine too, all of a sudden these corporations say, you know what, you guys got to back pay for 5 years of forced like underpaid labor, so they go under. Whatever. Guess what? People start their own businesses. It's a jumpstart situation. They are afraid of losing because what will happen inevitably, what has to happen is a mass redistribution of wealth. Because once you do that, if you jumpstart a system, people are going to be grateful and they're going to want to and I want to be very clear. If you're a MAGA person and then the government cuts you a check for like a shitload of money and they're like, okay, your healthcare is paid for, all this is paid for. Okay, so all you got to do is just work, pay a flat tax, and you'll be good. They'll be like,
I like
okay,
government again. I like it.
yeah,
They'll
like,
be like, oh, cool. This sounds great. Socialism is awesome.
yeah, like, oh, really?
Like,
What,
you mean I
seriously?
can, I can,
Oh,
I can have
I'm not
that
going to lose
farm
my
I've always
farm?
wanted?
Huh.
Or like, oh, I can be the like blacksmith I always wanted to be, or I can start that general store, or I can go try and be a teacher at the school that I wanted, or whatever.
Abolish Walmart. Fucking abolish it. Like, who fucking
Yeah,
cares, dude? Like, what do we lose? We lose nothing. We lose nothing.
we
They
have
employ
everything to
people.
gain.
All that does is it opens up a niche in the market for people to fill with their own ideas. All of a
Hmm.
sudden, farmers can sell their own produce again because Walmart doesn't fucking sell all of the produce. Like, they don't have to compete with Walmart. Like, it's really not that complicated. They have just convinced people that if things were to change, it all goes to hell. Well, it's going to go to hell anyway. So this is like the best case scenario because everyone's going to be like, wow, this fucking sucks. Like, let them fail. Like, why did they not let it's because they have so much money invested in their own success and their own position in the government. But like, that's what we're talking about, right? With regulation. Regulation makes this possible. Regulation puts guidelines in. Regulation is a wealth cap.
Hmm.
Regulation is mandated healthcare. It is mandated homes. It is mandated UBI. These things, that is regulation because it stops people from getting to like Citizens United being overturned. That is regulation. Like, regulation is not just a law per se. It is a intent. It is how the government chooses to act, how it chooses to manifest, and we ourselves as a society could regulate ourselves. So, it's one of those things where, and I like MAGA, whatever, like, one, there's not as many as you think. 51% of internet traffic is bots. 51%. That's literally more than people. Okay. So, probably and I'm going to say that probably 70% of the MAGA you interact with online is a bot because like either the MAGA that used to, a lot of them's quiet now because they're
Hmm.
suffering and they're embarrassed. And then you have the radicalized basement dwellers who still have no concept of like what the fuck is going on. And they're online, but they sound just like bots too. And my favorite clapback when I have like a MAGA person or whatever, I'm like, go back to bot school, comrade. Like, even if I know they're a person, I don't even like, as far as I'm concerned, you're not even a person. You're not thinking like a person. You're not capable of critical thinking. You're a bot to me. And
Yeah.
you know what? If it's a person, they get really mad. In which
Oh, yeah.
in which case I just keep calling them a bot until they rage, until they crash out and leave.
Rage
But
quit.
it's like it's they aren't, if they're not willing to like have a dialogue, and at the end of the day, like there is no large scale support for this. And like, guess what? When a fucking massive hurricane slams into Florida, slams into South Carolina, slams into New Orleans, and it wipes out their state and nobody comes, they're going to change their mind too. Because guess what? I was hoping, to be honest, and like not in a way that like people would get hurt, but I was hoping that a storm or something would hit some of these red states so they could see the impacts of FEMA on their lives. So they could see what happens when the government doesn't take care of you. And
we're going to shift here in a second.
Yes, we're going to space. And I have the link. I sent it.
I got it pulled up and I'm ready to go for it. But I wanted one point on what you were talking about. All of this is, it's not hard. Like, we need to stop saying we can't because it's never been done, and start saying we need to because it has to be done. And we need to give people something to vote for. We need to give a platform and build a platform that people want to vote for. That's the whole point, is I want you to be able to vote every single day of somehow and use your constitutionally guaranteed power to vote either with your dollars or your voice or your actual ballot, and do good things and have good things. And all it takes is us voting and doing it. And MAGA, like Shane was just saying, there aren't as many and they're not as hardcore as you think they are. And a lot of times, all we need to do is just keep working at it. Don't push them out of your lives entirely, but keep working at it and give them the ideas. These strong, radical ideas, most of them already agree with. Most of them want. Because you can be like, hey, you know what universal taxpayer funded healthcare would mean is you don't get paid, you don't have to pay taxes, or you don't have to pay healthcare through your employer. So that $400 to $800 a month or more that you pay through your employer, gone. You know what? Premiums, gone. Prescription pills, prices, gone. Doctor visit premiums, gone. All paid for through your taxes. Easy. That's an easy point to win. Like, so just saying, it's not as hard.
You abolish the insurance companies, everyone's healthcare is paid for.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. All we have to do, like, people want that too. They hate it. Everybody hates the system and how shitty the currently implemented version of the regulatory system is. Well, then we just fix the regulatory system and use some of these cool tools. And then, as we were talking about, or as was said in the chat, is we start sending some billionaires into space if they're unwilling to pay off their debts that they owe back to us. And a great place for that to do is we go to space ourselves and we send them to a planet not too far away that may have life on it. So Shane, I want to hear what you got to say, because this is your story from today. Is NASA announces a groundbreaking discovery of life on Mars. So go ahead, my brother. What you got for us?
Go ahead, scroll up to the picture, because I'm gonna explain kind of what you guys are seeing here. If you could like zoom in on it too, or like maybe pop it out and just fill the screen with it. So what are you looking at? So you're looking at a rock, right? It's like this is from the Perseverance rover on Mars. So there's a lot going on here, but what is significant about this is that this is the most clear sign of life we have seen on Mars. And so there's a couple things. One is you're looking at that leopard spot. Okay, so this particular rock is located in a crater on Mars, and I will let you know what the name is. But it's considered a potential biosignature. NASA defines a potential biosignature as a substance or structure that may have a biological origin, but requires more data for further study before reaching a conclusion. Okay, but what's significant about this is, they'll use James Webb and shoot it into space, and they'll, see some sort of element in the atmosphere, be like, oh, well, that has a biological, it's made biologically on Earth. Well, that's true. However, one of the things about chemistry is obviously, like, there's lots of different ways that things can be created. We're not certain of all these processes. However, when we sent Perseverance to Mars, it went with a very specific goal. It went to somewhere called Jezero Crater, which was a dry riverbed, okay, on Mars. So it was a place where there was water. And you can see that by looking at Mars. You can see the way the land was carved and changed. You can see, and we know there was water on Mars. We know there's not water on Mars now because it had a thin atmosphere, which was stripped from it. And then all of the water got stripped from Mars, and it's got some ice, but Mars's atmosphere is like non-existent now because it had a weaker magnetic field. So, the solar radiation went whoop, it's all gone. But now you've got a dusty red planet. But that doesn't necessarily mean that there wasn't life on Mars at the time. Now, it's really hard to find any kind of example of life on Mars. But what Perseverance found, and this rock, they've called it Chevaya Falls. And this is from last year, and I think that's significant. And I'm going to explain to you why it's significant. Because what you see on this rock is something very interesting. These little circles that you see there, and I'm not the only one to think this, but there is a certain process, and the instruments are these particular so this particular rock is composed of clay and silt, okay, which their clay and silt comes from riverbeds, right? They also happen to be excellent preservers of microbial life. They are rich in organic carbon, sulfur, and phosphorus. So what you see on this particular rock is that the combination of chemical compounds that was found could have been a source of rich energy for microbial metabolisms. Look at that shape, right? It's circular, and it has that little ring around it. The first thing I thought, and I don't know if this is true or not, but when I look at it, I'm like, that does kind of look like a cell. Like it could be like a little bacterial colony or something. These leopard spots, and they have not found anything like this anywhere else, right? And what is a metabolism, right? It's the creation of heat and energy, and there's some sort of byproduct. What's even more interesting is if you look and you would say, well, that could come from a chemical process where there's high acidity. So if you zoom out here, Nick, I want you to go to the other thing that's circled over there. That's called olivine. Well, the thing about olivine is that it has very weak chemical bonds. So if you add a very high acidity to the situation, to that environment, right, that olivine would have broken down, which means that this particular rock, with the presence of olivine next to it, means that the alternative explanation for the formation of these particular leopard spots on this rock in this clay silt, which is known to preserve signs of life, you could not have the alternative explanation that we know next to these leopard spots with olivine present. And so scientists went, and mind you, they found this last year, okay? They went and they did a study, and they tried everything they could, because science, you don't start with your hypothesis, you try to disprove it. So they did everything that they could do to disprove that this particular rock had these leopard spots from a different process. And they concluded that they could not. That is what makes this significant, is that And the Perseverance rover has a sample of this, which means that, and unfortunately, if they kill the Mars return mission, then we will never know. That's just another reason to, get these fuckers out of here so we can figure out what the hell, because this turns everything upside down. This is the proof right next to home. This is right next to home. This is one planet over. This proves that proof is not the right word, but the overwhelming consensus, because they tried really, really hard to explain this without life, and they couldn't do it. This is huge. This is so exciting to me, because we don't know what this would have even, looked like. We don't know, but we do know enough about life itself to see this on Mars, to know that that the universe, if microbial life is possible on Mars, it means that anything is possible. Like, what does that mean on Europa, right? What does that mean on Europa, where there's active water, where you have thermal vents, where you have all of the things needed for life, and you've got an active ocean? What does that mean in all of these other places? Like, we know that we've discovered places on Earth where organisms use things like methane to actually metabolize and make energy, an entirely independent system of what we thought was possible through the life we know on Earth. What this proves is it takes everything that people would like to be true in regards to, Earth being the singularity and everything happened here first. And it says, well, that's absolutely not true, because Mars lost its oceans far before we thought that life had disappeared, like life was on Earth, right? So this says, you know what? You're wrong about everything, which is so exciting to me. Personally, that makes me so excited. To be wrong about everything, it means we get to re-explore everything that was there before. So this is I just there, even in times like this, we're still capable of learning and pushing forward and persevering in the spirit of perseverance, that we have accomplished so much, and right now we're learning things about the universe that we couldn't possibly have considered. So I wanted to share that with you guys today. I saw this a couple weeks ago, like a week or so ago, and I was like, this has got to come to Palantalk, because this is wicked cool, guys. This is really cool, and we should all be excited about this, because it means that anything is possible out there. And it's I'm so excited to see what we get back from Europa, because you've got these geysers, right? What happens when you fly through that jet and they pick up real bacteria, real microbes that are alive? And then, oh my goodness, right? So awesome.
Yeah. It's one of those things too that I think the reason we're not talking about it so much right now is because it would be fundamentally altering in a lot of ways to people in their views on what life is. Because life, we imagine, or so many people imagine, that the first life we'd ever come in contact are carbon-based life forms that look kind of like us in some way. But the first life we're going to find and are finding are microbial. And they could even be silicon-based life forms rather than carbon-based. We know that there's other types of life forms that can and do grow on Earth that are not specifically carbon-based. And so I think it's really awesome that we're finally getting this information for real, not just hypothesizing that it could be out there, but we've finally been able to, because like you said, a hypothesis and the scientific method is about proving your hypothesis wrong, is not proving it right, because that makes you do bad science. That says that I'm going to prove this right, so I'm going to be biased in all of my assumptions towards it to make sure it's right. Whereas science is about proving yourself wrong and in the process, eliminating ways that could make your hypothesis wrong. Not through wanting to prove it right, but by wanting to prove it wrong. And that's where you learn everything. And I think we proved ourselves wrong in a really good way about life on other planets like this, is that microbial life is the first life we will find.
Yes.
Because we always assumed that human like life was what we would find first, but it's not. It's not. It's the proof of life isn't us. That is the proof of highly intelligent life forms, but life is tiny. Life is mixing chemicals together and spontaneously forming cells and building out like new microorganisms and these leopard spots and this olivine on the rock and the different like it's not what we think. Life isn't what we've been lied to believe is just like has to be us. Life is all around us, tiny and invisible to our eyes in so many ways. And yeah, I think the reason they don't want to share this is because it would, or they don't want, some people want to suppress information like this or keep it from coming back to Earth, is because it would prove religious systems wrong.
Yeah.
And religious systems don't want to be proven wrong because they want control and they need control. And that control is based on us being unique and us being alone and us being totally isolated, which I think is boring as shit. Like,
Absolutely.
why is there so much space if it's just us? Like, what a waste. It's a threat to systems on Earth and our doctrine that we're all like so vastly different from each other, but really human life is so similar. Like, we're all one human species, and the sooner we decide that that's okay is when we see that other types of species live out there. Yeah. That's why anti-science becomes part of a very like, well, not anti-science, anti-critical thinking about science. Because they like science. There are some of them that like science. Like, they just don't go about it in the scientific method of proving their own theory wrong. They go about it in the tech method of move fast and break things, and they don't care about the consequences. Science is move deliberately and create things. Tech is move fast and break things. And we need to relearn that science has a better philosophy than tech does. Tech would be much better if they went on the move deliberately and create things path, because then they would actually build systems that work instead of systems that are like what we're getting out of AI right now, that are trying to do stupid shit and can't draw hands because they always put 6 fucking fingers on, or they put arms in weird ways, or they mesh things together. It's because they're not using science anymore to make tech better. They have a goal and they're like, I'm going to prove my theory right, that that science or that AI is the only way forward. That's what they're trying to prove. The scientists would say AI is a great tool. How do we disprove that it would be
Yeah.
alive? And then they would
Human.
go about all the ways and ask the questions and find if it's not alive, how along the process they may answer the question of how do we make it alive. Tech doesn't want that question. They don't want the hard question. They want the easiest path. We need to go back to the less easy path and to the more intellectual, asking ourselves to be better path rather than the lazy.
Yeah,
I
there's
think
one
that's what
thing, Mick,
science
that I
gives us.
think I'd like to wrap up with, because Mick's always got great comments. I love having you here, Mick. But we need to support decent philosophers of science, right? Like, I believe more so than anything, I think the lack of philosophy in our world is it's by design. Philosophers, the very nature of a philosopher is to question. And questioning is a direct threat to power. So anyone who sits like me and Nick sitting here saying, well, why couldn't UBI work? Why? Like, it seems to me like it could work. Why couldn't a wealth cap work? You're not giving me why? Why couldn't there be life on Mars? Why? That those three letters with that question mark attached is the single most dangerous thing to people in power. It's just
Yeah.
why. Explain yourself. Explain your damn self. Like,
Give me a
what?
reason.
And the thing about it is they can't. That's why, like Nick was saying, like religious institutions, they fear um something like life on Mars because their doctrine never accounted for the fact that there could be life on Mars. When they were thinking, when this institution was founded, when they were writing these texts, they're not like, should we put something in case they find life on Mars, like on a different planet? Nah, it'll be good, dude. Just we are the only thing in the universe. Perfect. That's great. That's what they need. They need to feel special. And then they're like, oh fuck, and you know what, I have people that are deeply religious and they need their faith, and that's fine. But a lot of people then just adjust your faith. Be like, oh well, clearly we didn't understand the scope of God's work. Like, he
Yeah.
probably did it like in the solar system. Like, maybe he was elsewhere. Like, who knows? Like, maybe just instead of denying things, be like, well, maybe they just didn't account for that. But you can still have your faith. You don't need to like just deny anything else. Just be like, if in this case, like if your God is like so, all encompassing, so powerful, who are you to have the audacity to assume what they're capable of? Or your fucking pastor or the Pope? Who the fuck are you? Do you think anyone can put that shit in a book? Hell no.
Yeah,
Like,
who thinks that they can tell God he can't put life somewhere else? Like,
that's right.
Are you
Like,
so small-minded as an individual that if as a religious person, like you wouldn't believe that God would then create more children in his own image or their own image? Like, why are we so unique?
yeah.
Like,
Maybe he fucked around on Mars and then messed up, and then he took the atmosphere and yeeted everything into space. He's like, I don't know. I'm gonna go make dinosaurs now. Yeah, I don't know about this.
No. Dinosaurs are a lie to trick the poor homeschooled kids into believing that the Earth is only 2,025 years old. No history. There was no history before Jesus. Don't you remember? Like, he created space
White
and
the whole
time.
right? He was white the whole time. He just got tan. They tanned him a lot.
He's actually a Goa'uld, and they landed their mothership on the pyramids of Giza, and they put a Goa'uld into the back of some dude's neck, called him Moses, and had him cross the Red Sea, and he could see shit, and he lit a bush on fire doing it, and he parted the Red Seas, and we're all just waiting on the Goa'ulds to return. Like, if they found a fucking Stargate in Antarctica, my life would be complete. Like, I would be so happy. As dangerous and scary as fuck as that would be in real life, like, I would be so happy to just be like, thank fucking God we're not the start of this, because we're just idiots. Like,
next time we got to talk about
up.
UAPs, bro, because the shit about UAPs is crazy. I mean, like, they're finding, like, because they did end up declassifying all this stuff, and like, God, people will talk about the ocean. Yeah, we don't know shit about the ocean. There's shit in the ocean. Clearly, like, I mean, it's like outmaneuvering our fighter jets. You've got pilots, right? Like, these guys aren't on drugs. These are pilots. Like, they are paying attention. They're flying a complex machine, and yet they're in some of the fastest tech we have in the world. And this stuff freaking flies by them faster than they could even comprehend. Like, there is shit going on in the ocean that we don't know what's going on. And like, there's bacteria on Mars. Dude, I don't know. Like, I know Atlantis is like not like it's pretty conspiracy theoried out. Yeah. I know. But there's some small part of me that, always wanted it to be true. And maybe in some capacity, there was some people that like did live on the coast and their city got flooded. Like, there's usually some truth in a story. Okay, Kat. There's usually some truth in a story like that, but you never know. So, I mean, that's all I got. Life on Mars, guys. Like, did you think we were going to learn that today? Hell
This is
no.
also how I know that the Earth is not flat, is that cats would have pushed everything off by now had it been
Yep.
flat. So
Yep.
we can rule that one out because cats push everything off the edge of everything.
Thank
So
you.
um,
for that.
but yeah, thank you everyone. Shane, thank you for making my day and reminding me that there is life on Mars, or telling me now and helping inform me and everyone else. That was such a great deep dive into that. That was
Hell yeah.
really cool. Awesome, brother. Um, and I'm going to return us back to Palantalk, um, bring us back from space, and we're going to close out with our final segment of where you can find us, how you can help us, and when you'll see us again, which is you'll see us again next week, like you always do, every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Next week, it'll feel an hour earlier because we'll fall back.
Oh yeah.
So it'll be a little bit brighter for everyone. Um, and so, yeah, get used to that. But then also, please come support us here over on Banner and Backbone. This is the
Absolutely.
home for Palantalk. This is where we do our shows. I'm one of the co founders there. And Banner and Backbone Media is where we're trying to get content like this, civic based content, how you can engage informed citizenry and what's going on around you. So please come support Banner and Backbone. Free paid subscribers, they all help. They get the word out. They build the network larger, and they let us bring more shows like this onto the network and increase the offerings. And then my boy Shane, I'll hand it over to you, brother.
All right, for sure. Well, first of all, like everything Nick said, make sure you support us at Banner and Backbone. And you know, I'm really honestly like so impressed with the growth that the network has seen already. And it's doing awesome. Speaking of Banner and Backbone, I've got a couple cool announcements. I'm having Ellie Leonard, also from Banner and Backbone,
Hell
over to the
yeah.
Firebrand Project tomorrow for Firebrands United at 4:30 PST, 7 or 4 PST, 7 EST. So make sure you check in for that one. Ellie is just like, I'm so excited because like I can't, like, we're busy. I can't keep up with everything. And like you guys know, I'm trying to my focus is generally current events, the news, but being able to have Ellie on and just really give us the lowdown on what's going on with Epstein, because she is one of the best resources out there, period. Not just like
Yeah,
in America, like she knows what's going on with Epstein. So I'm so stoked to be able to have her for a Firebrands United. So make sure you guys tune in for that one because you're not going to want to miss that.
that's
Um,
awesome.
as as always, Monday through Friday, you can always join me at 2 p.m. now, PST, for the Firebrand Report. I just give you guys some news. It's not too much. It's meant not to be overwhelming, but to put things in front of you and give you guys an idea of not only where America is going, but where the world is going. Because I think the news is more than just what happens. It's about what the news means for you, me, and everybody else. And I think that's one of the failings in our media is that you get information, but you don't get necessarily anything to accompany that. You don't get to experience the impacts and the reasons behind what you're seeing and what that could lead to. So that's something I really try to do in the Firebrand Report. I've got a show coming up. It's going to be every Wednesday with John Oliver, who is a Canadian composer and just a great thinker. It's going to be called The Dialogue, and I'm super excited. That's going to be on Wednesdays at 10. And we'll have to have Nick on there because Nick,
Oh,
you've got
absolutely.
such a background in music. I think you guys would have such a great conversation. And yeah, I mean, there's so much going on at the Firebrand Project with work with Senator America that it looks like me and Nick are going to be doing as well. Um, and if you're in California, go check out my notes. I just put out a petition you can go sign for basically the Governor Newsom, the Assembly, and the state Senate to pass legislation to either in tandem with or replace voting tabulators with hand counts to avoid purchase of Dominion voting systems by what is it, like Patriot,
Liberty voting or freedom
vote
voting
or
or
whatever,
whatever
which is a Trump
fucking
supported
bullshit.
entity. So just to take steps to protect our voting rights here in California. And if you don't even live in California, I would recommend that you go and look at that and start your own petition in your own state. Try and get ahead of this because if they're going to try and if they're going to try and take over the technology, well, then just go back to what works. In most European countries, they hand count the ballots because it's harder to manipulate it. At the very least, you hand count the ballots and they can run the tabulators too. And guess what? If there's a gross discrepancy, there you go. You have even more evidence that they're trying to do those things. So I highly recommend that you go and if you're in California, please go sign that. I think it's already up to like 15. I published it this morning. Super awesome. But
And
that's
we'll
all I
make sure
got.
that we'll make sure the link is in the show notes because I think you already sent
absolutely.
it to me.
Yeah, and become both to me and Nick, if you can become a paid subscriber, like that would be incredible. It really helps us grow. And it helps in a lot of ways. It puts us on leaderboards. It helps us with visibility. But even though like we both understand that like times are tough, so you can always help us with being just a free subscriber, but engagement. So make sure you're commenting, restacking, and liking all of these shows, all of these posts, and sharing it with people, because the most important thing is you leave this show and you take it to your dinner table, to the library, to work, and you continue the conversation elsewhere. So thank you all very much for being here. And I look forward to seeing you on another show sometime this week, and certainly for Palantalk next Monday.
Thanks, Shane. And finally, come support me at Sick of the Shit Publications. I'm running a 50% off sale on my personal pub right now till the end of the month. You find more of my chronic illness work there. I focus a lot on chronic illness issues, supporting each other, making communal groups, and building out a network of just community, either online or in person. So that's my main home. Please come support me there. I do a show Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. And then Wednesdays, actually, this one I'm going to announce today too, is there's two shows coming up on Wednesday this week that are going to be great. Is we have our Centered America discussion, Banner and Backbone with Centered America, doing the Centering the Discussion in America series, where we're going to have myself, Melissa Corrigan, Shane, if he's able to make it, plus the two directors at Centered America, and Evan Fields he's a Lincoln Square contributor. And he's a policy expert as well, and we're going to be focusing a discussion into the importance of primaries in relation to what happened with Graham Plattner in Maine and the Totenkopf hate tattoo that's tattooed on his chest, and how we are influencing the direction of the party to not accept that as something. And then in the afternoon, Wednesday afternoon, 5 p.m. Eastern time, this one's going to be a big one, is we are going to be hosting on Banner and Backbone, myself, Shane Yirak, so it may take over his show for Wednesday this week, with Melissa Corrigan, the two gentlemen from Centered America, plus Dean Blundell, Zev Shalev, and Lev Parnas, for a very important discussion on targeting weak Republicans and targeting those who are specifically able to be swayed with our voices and sustained engagement, and how that can work in a more organized and effective way than just sitting on DC hoping something changes, and how we as citizens can actually target in an appropriate way, in a peaceful and patriotic way, how we can ensure that our representatives represent us. So I think everybody join us, please, tomorrow or Wednesday afternoon at 5 p.m. Eastern for an incredible panel that we're going to be having. But stick around with us. Thank you all for so much support, for coming on and joining us today. I know we stayed long, but you guys all seem to keep coming in and more, and y'all don't ever ask us to leave. So we appreciate it. Thank you so much, Shane. As always, my friend, it's been great. Friends. Everyone in the audience on Substack, YouTube, and Twitch, thank you for joining us today. We're streaming on 3 different platforms. Come subscribe to us on all of the platforms too. help us build up our YouTube, help us build up our Twitch, and we'll start expanding elsewhere when we can. Those subscriptions help. That's how we do this. That's how we build up these platforms and more of the message that you guys all love get out to everybody. So thanks, everyone, and we'll see y'all next week.